Funding for this program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and...
Yeah, it's the same channel, but the room is a bit different. It's a work in progress. Don't ask. But forget all about that for just a moment. It doesn't still hinder the fact that I give you guys content. And this video is something we'll lose in the future. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And you may be thinking, why does that matter? Well, let's start with how it works. So the CPB is not a creator of content at all. That's the job of these guys here. Some might ask, why does PBS need the CPB? Well, here is why. The CPB is a nonprofit that gets federal funds from Congress each year from government budget. Congress approves of the funding for the CPB, which then goes to the nonprofit. CPB then distributes the funds to PBS and NPR stations around the country. Then those funds are directed at shows, public education, local programming, and services. So in layman's terms, I will use SpongeBob.
I order the food, you cook the food, then the customer gets the food. We do that for 40 years and then we die.
Some people ask, well, why was it made? Good question. In 1967, President Lyndon B. Johnson would sign the PBA, or the Public Broadcasting Act of 1967. This act would be in response to the rise in educational programming and channels in the 1950s. However, educational programming was always on life support, while commercial networks were always funded due to the fact that shows with more commercials and commercial time brought in more revenue on both fronts than nonprofit programming. This would get the Carnegie Institute to garner a study in defense of funding of educational programs in 1965. By April 11, 1967, U.S. Congress would debate on what would be at the time the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and its role in television. The general concern was how this nonprofit would spend the money, how it would be divided between radio and television, and how it would be involved with the corporation considering bipartisanship. Certain congressmen would reject the bill, such as Albert Watson and Samuel L. Devine, as well as a coalition of both Southern Democrats and Republicans. Go figure. By November 7th of 1967, the bill would unanimously pass through Congress and be signed into law. Thus, the CPB was made.
This is PBS.
Now, the CPB is a thing. What about PBS? Well, here's how that played out. After the Corporation for Public Broadcasting received funding, presidents from different branches of educational networks, such as Fred Friendly, Hartford N. Gunn of WBGH, and John Macy of the CPB, would join together to form PBS. After a battle with not only Newark, New Jersey on the rights to licensing and network administrators, but constant funding cuts from the government, mainly from Richard Nixon and conservative congressmen, wouldn't stop them from airing Watergate. Now, the CPB received the heaviest of controversies. Over the years, the CPB was criticized on balance of educational subject matter, how networks and educational programs had to merge with each other due to budget cuts and network dominance, also how this nonprofit could be used in ways of being in favor of only one party and being influenced by government subsidies. In the 2000, NPR and PBS made a complaint to the CPB being more conservative in programming, leading to the eventual step down of Kenneth Tomlinson as the CPB was investigated under political test. Now there are good things that the CPB has done. The last few years, even current day, bring us to the eventual slow decline of the CPB. This wouldn't be the first time that the company would have its funding threatened, as U.S. Congress in 2023 would not give CPB any funding after the first fiscal year of 2024, until President Biden changed the corresponding bill to refund the CPB, only this time it was 7% less than requested by Congress. By May 1st, 2025, DJT would end funding to NPR and PBS altogether by the CPB under the Executive 14290. The main reason was that Trump claimed PBS and NPR were biased and violating the PBA Act of 1967, while also considering funding to public news outdated and coercive in today's media market.
Ironic.
By May 27th, all three media companies would sue the Trump administration for violation of free speech clauses. The lawsuits are still pending from both the CPB and the Trump administration. FEMA would get sued by the CPB for halting funds for the Next Generation System grant. Many would say, well, who needs the CPB? It's wasteful and we don't need it. So who cares that it's gone? If only it were that easy. PBS and NPR will still run, but in the long run, viewers like you are going to hit very different, mainly because funding will have to come from all of us who care there enough to keep public broadcasting going. Some might say, well, that's fine, it should be still funded by the people instead of the government. But the problem is, the major networks are commercial based, and companies only value networks, only if they are able to sell and advertise products and garner ad revenue for airtime, versus public broadcasting, which does take company donors, but only so little that it doesn't become an ad-filled space. What else gets affected? People's jobs. From 13 to BGH, many public broadcasting companies have still been laying off staff. With no funding to the local stations, people will now have to look for work elsewhere, while local stations have become skeleton crews keeping the lights on. Shows themselves that are local to the area will have to end seasons or be put on suspension. Well, hold on, there's more to this.
But wait! There's more!
People in rural areas who rely on public radio for local news and weather reports will be shut down as well. And some may say, well, get with the times, we have smartphones and 5G. If you don't live in the suburbs, urban, and metropolitan areas, it would be way easier to say this if 5G towers didn't go down due to weather. Anything else gets affected? Public schools and libraries, because some money does not get appropriated to local schools and libraries. Without this, educational facilities will fall behind. There are many more reasons to the fall of the CPB. Time will tell how both PBS and NPR will survive all of this. CPB is something we used to say as kids because PBS always displayed it on every intro, albeit none of us knew what the corporation did. Backed by a government that either liked it or hated it, the main goal was to appropriate funds to better serve public television and local communities. With funding being threatened, who knows how this will affect not only public television, but the entire country, because it's the CPB today, but what will be next tomorrow.